I always wanted to do one of these tier makers. I see these things online. I seen them for Mortal Kombat video games. I seen them for WWE video games. I seen them for football teams. But I finally found one. I finally found one that I feel that I am qualified to do, and that is a WrestleMania tier list. So, coming up on this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H, I'm going to do the tier list right here live on the show, and you guys are going to get to see where I rank these WrestleManias, how I feel about these WrestleManias. And guess what? I'm going to make it with a objective decision. So don't worry, you won't expect to see WrestleMania 9 in the GOAT. I'm going to give it a objective decision. Coming up on this episode of Break It Down with Brian H.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. This show, of course, is brought to you by the Wrestling Realm. And before we get into the show, before we get into, as they say, all the particular things, I want to remind you, WrestlingRealm.com is where you can go, folks, to get your merchandise. You can get all kinds of cool stuff. So make sure you check us out over there. And as I look for the graphic, I can't find the graphic. And I'm wondering, where is the graphic? Oh, there it is right there. Just want to remind you that you can save $20 off your tickets by using SeatGeek. So anything, tickets $50 or more, use the Wrestling Realm code Wrestling Realm. So make sure you use that. Baseball season's coming up. I know I said I'm not going to be mentally tied, emotionally attached to my Baltimore Orioles, but folks, you can save $20 on your tickets. Now, let's get right into what you have been waiting for. Folks, I'm going to go ahead and throw it right on the screen. That is the tier list, the official tier list for WrestleMania. Let's go ahead. WrestleMania, we are less than 3 weeks away. So I'm going to go from start to finish. I'm going to start with WrestleMania 1. So I found this list and they got Immortal. So obviously, Red, if you're used to these things, Red is like the greatest of all time. As they say, Immortal, one that I'm going to say you can watch over and over again. Rest in peace means you're not watching it no more. Nope. Barely Legal is kind of like, we'll watch it if we have to. Mid is exactly what it is. It's just middle. Solid. Just a solid WrestleMania, one that you may watch or you rewatch every year, but you just maybe have a couple of good matches there. But overall, mid. And great one is just falling right below greatest of all time. So let's get started. We're going to start with WrestleMania 1. Now, here's the thing. I have to say this. I was not born. WrestleMania 1 was 1985, March of 1985. I wasn't born until August of 86, so I wasn't around. But when you watch all the stuff, you watch all of the videos, the DVDs, but then when you talk to people who's around, you really understand the benefit. You really understand that this was the show of shows, the mega show. So for that, it gets a solid rating from me because of that reason right there. So I'm giving WrestleMania 1 a solid rating. Now, WrestleMania 2, I'm going to put in barely legal because it should have been illegal to run 3 shows at once, quite frankly. Could they do it now? It's possible. But back then, not the best decision. So I would never run 3 shows at a WrestleMania. Like I said, just, WrestleMania 2, I mean, you think back to the main event, It was Hogan and King Kong Bundy, and I understand King Kong Bundy was a big deal at that time. Hulk Hogan was the guy, but it was just so much going on. So I have to put that in the barely legal category. WrestleMania 3. I got to go with great one. It's not immortal for me, but I'm going great one because if you make an argument, the first three, this is the best one. This is the main event, 93,000. I don't care about what people say, whether they saying that it was that many people, it wasn't that many people. I'm putting WrestleMania 3 as the greatest one of the first three. And when you really think about it, what made WrestleMania 3, you not only had Hogan and Andre, but you had Savage Steamboat. You know what I mean? You had, oh man, what's his name? Junkyard Dog and Greg the Hammer Valentine. There's so many missing matches. Adrian Adonis and what was supposed to be Roddy Piper's last match. We all know it wasn't, but that's why this WrestleMania goes into the great one category. WrestleMania 4. WrestleMania 4 was a tournament of all-nighter. But guess what? It's a lot of wrestling. I know Savage won the title, folks, but in this tier list, it's got to go mid. I struggle between mid and solid. And you may say more because it was a lot of matches, but I got, I'm going to go solid because right here, WrestleMania 5, I got to go mid. It's not as bad as people think, but I don't think it was a phenomenal WrestleMania. So that one I will go as mid. But then WrestleMania 6, I felt like they bounced back. I say that was a great one. A lot of people sleep on WrestleMania 6, but I mean, we got to see the American Dream Dusty Rhodes tweet with Sweet Sapphire go against Macho King Randy Savage and Sensational Sherry. We saw Miss Elizabeth out there. Obviously the Ultimate Challenge. Toronto is really put this from solid to a great one to me. That crowd was electric. Mr. Perfect versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake, where the Mr. Perfect streak was clipped that night. So yeah, that is a great one. WrestleMania 7. The show that was supposed to be in the Coliseum. I'm going to give it a solid rating now. Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter was really good. Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior stole the show, and that's what probably bumps it up from solid to mid, to be honest with you. We got to see the Rockers that night. We got to see the debut of The Undertaker when he took on Jimmy Superfly Snuka. So that one was solid. Because I gotta be honest with WrestleMania 8. Personally, it's up there for me. But if I'm telling people to go back and watch it, I'm putting it in a solid ranking. Yes, we got Hogan and Sid Justice, what was supposed to be Hogan's last match. It was Hogan's last time formally main eventing of WrestleMania. We got Piper and Bret Hart, which was a phenomenal match. We got Savage and Flair, which was the match of the night. Should have been Flair and Hogan. We know that, but this one gets a solid. I was close to giving it a great one. Me personally, I would have, but being it fair, like I told y'all, I would be fair. I'll give it a solid. Now comes the truth. I know people think that this WrestleMania belongs in the RIP category. And for me, it goes immortal. But I'm gonna, I can't believe I'm doing this. But if I be objective, I'm putting WrestleMania 9 in mid, folks. I'm putting it in mid. Here's why. It was outside. It had great theatrics. It made you feel what a WrestleMania is supposed to be, right? But the reason why, as much as I was happy as a little Hulkamaniac that Hulk Hogan won the WWE Championship back and he saved the good guy won in the end. And as much as it was cool Bret Hart having his first match, there was a lot of shenanigans that went on that day. I mean, you had the memorable moments from Doink the Clown. You had the memorable moments of Natalie Cole saying, "Oh, it's real money." But if we be honest, there was no there was no match. It was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go back and watch that match again. And that's me saying that as WrestleMania 9 is immortal for me personally. WrestleMania 10, I gave this a solid rating. Yes, you had Bret and Owen. Yes, you had the ladder match, and you had the moment of Bret Hart winning the championship. But it's solid because yes, it was the 10th anniversary in the theatrics. But again, it's kind of a one-match card, if we being honest. A one-match card and a card full. Well, actually, you know what, too? Bret and Owen was a great match. So two-match card and full of moments. So that's the reason why it only gets a solid rating. Now, as much as this was in my famous 5 tapes, rest in peace, WrestleMania 11. I watched it over and over again, but I mean, unfortunately, nobody ever goes back and say you gotta put on that match from WrestleMania 11. You know what I mean? Nobody never goes back and do that. Nobody never says, "Oh, but WrestleMania 11," and there was so many technical issues, audio issues, so even living at that time, it didn't feel like, oh, it was WrestleMania. Yeah, Shawn Michaels and Diesel, but WrestleMania looked like a regular part of the 1995 pay-per-view card. It didn't feel superior. WrestleMania 9 and 10 did. WrestleMania 11 didn't. But then I think we have a solid one from WrestleMania 12. The Iron Man match is phenomenal. That right there keeps it from being mid. Undertaker and Diesel, underrated. Seeing the return of the Ultimate Warrior, if putting my fan hat on, not looking at it from the politics of things, seeing the return of Ultimate Warrior, that was a lot of fun. So I gotta go making that mid. WrestleMania 13, honestly, barely legal. One match card. I know we got Rocky Johnson. Rocky Johnson in the moment with Rocky Maivia. I know we got Undertaker finally winning the WWE Championship for the first time since 1991. But Austin and Bret, that was a one-match show, but it's barely legal because the rest of the show just felt, so that's why I put that. Now, WrestleMania 14. This is a great one. This was the one that turned. This is what you put on because while Austin doesn't really care for the match of him and Shawn Michaels, it was the moment. Jim Ross on the call. The Austin era has begun, and that launched us right in. That was the Attitude Era, the first one. The colors were changing. Undertaker and Kane, their feud, and it just had a solid card. It felt like the whole night we were crowning. It was the dawning of a new era. It was into the Attitude Era. So therefore, I have to give this a great one tag right now, just to where we're at. 3, 6, and 14 rank as great ones. And guess what? I'm going to throw WrestleMania 15 there as well. I know a lot of people, this one is often slept on. When you think about Austin and Rock kicking this off, this is in the thick of the Attitude Era. And Austin, Rock, we have the Rock who's coming to be the next star. Austin is there, but he has to get that belt back. You know what I mean? It's Triple H and China reuniting, but then Triple H turning on DX, kicking off what we would have the corporation and a new era, and then Undertaker and Boss Man. I know, but that was the height of the Undertaker's corporate ministry. So I'm giving this a great one. But then WrestleMania 2000, I'm going back and forth between barely legal and mid. I'm going with barely legal. It was totally the wrong ending. I think if The Rock won, it would have been mid still, but it's barely legal. When you look back, what happened? I mean, first of all, only one-on-one match. It was just so much going on. So WrestleMania 2000, WrestleMania 16 is barely legal. Now, I mean, this is obvious. The first immortal win is WrestleMania 17. Austin, Rock, both at the height of their primes. Solid card through and through. So for me, this one right here, a moment that, we saw Austin turn heel, join McMahon, but Vince and Shane had a great match. TLC 2 was a great match. Benoit and Kurt Angle, if you're into the grabs of it, they had a solid match. So Undertaker and Triple H, just a straight up street fight. You know what I mean? The hardcore championship was on the line throughout that night, I believe. Jericho and William Regal kicking it off. So that's a immortal. WrestleMania 18. I'm throwing that in the immortal category also. Yes, it had the wrong main event, but When you think about WrestleMania 18, I'm going to say the greatest WrestleMania, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever to this point. Yes, between Austin and Rock, because of, Rock and Hogan, because past, present, everything. The crowd is what set this from being great one to immortal. And then anybody knows I've been saying, and I've said this up until now, this is the greatest WrestleMania 19. Four matches that could have main evented the show. You know what I mean? You could have main evented with Hogan and Vince. You could have main evented with Booker T and Triple H because of the World Championship. You could have main evented with Austin and Rock 3. But you main event with Brock and Kurt Angle. I believe to this day, if Brock doesn't go for that shooting star press, this match is often put up there as one of the greatest matches of all time. Now, WrestleMania 20, where it begins again, is mid to me. You know, it was cool. I know it's a lot of reasons we can't talk about it. It would have been, and I think that's the reason, right? It could have been a great one when you think about what it was supposed to do with Benoit and Kurt Angle, Benoit and Eddie Guerrero setting the trajectory, but it has to lose points, folks. I'm sorry, it just does. It has to lose a little bit of points for that, you know? So overall, you can't show this main event to people who don't want nothing to watch with Chris Benoit. You have to respect that. So that's the reason why I am putting that in this category. So next, WrestleMania 21. WrestleMania goes Hollywood. This is the night where John Cena is crowned. This is another mid one. You know, it's just, we're in a tough time here, folks. You know, we're really in a tough time here. So, you know, just, you know, Staples Center, the Hollywood theatrics was cool, but this WrestleMania, often you don't refer to matches to go back and watch outside of Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels. You know, this is the WrestleMania that Shawn Michaels became Mr. WrestleMania. But if you're looking for a John Cena match, you can find a better one. Yes, he won the championship, but you'll find something else. You know, so that's why I have this. Batista beating Triple H, okay, but nah, it's WrestleMania 22. I'm gonna put Barely Legal. Trish and Mickey James match of the night. You know, I wasn't a fan of Triple H and John Cena. I know CM Punk was there, and there was a couple other wrestlers there, but nah, you know, WrestleMania 22 is just very meh. Now, WrestleMania 23, I believe I'm going to put that in the solid category. I believe WrestleMania 23, they kind of got the swag back. We all know the Battle of the Billionaires was that night. Detroit, 20 years from WrestleMania 3. Aretha Franklin kicks off the show. Undertaker and Batista with an incredible match, stole the show. Shawn Michaels and John Cena main evented, but they actually had a better match the next night. But this is the WrestleMania that I said, okay. WrestleMania 24 is underrated, but I'm going to give that a solid, right? When I think back to WrestleMania 24, we obviously think about Floyd Mayweather and we think about Big Show, but you know, you can't discredit Edge and Undertaker closing the show. It was a beautiful set, you know, especially when you learn that they was pretty much in a dump, and yet this looked beautiful. So WrestleMania 24, definitely a solid WrestleMania for me. Now, WrestleMania 25, I'm going to say solid. I think the main event was a stinker between Randy Orton and Triple H. I think it shouldn't have main evented the show, but at the time it made sense. I mean, who knew Undertaker and Shawn Michaels was going to go put on a match that was arguably one of the greatest of all time? But another thing about this WrestleMania, right, was that you did have Matt and Jeff. Now, another one that kind of loses some points for me is the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal with Santino winning. I didn't like that at all. It just made the women, you know, it was a gimmick. Like, why? It could have been so much better. And like I said, with Randy Orton and Triple H, they had to follow Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, but they had a great story. So it gets a solid ranking for me. WrestleMania 26. Boy, you know, you go back and forth, but when you really think about it, I'm going to give it a solid rating. And because, you know, I enjoyed the story of Vince and Bret Hart. Finally, Bret Hart comes home. I know a lot of people may not have, but You also had some solid matches that you can go back and look on. Triple H and Sheamus was solid. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton versus Ted DiBiase Jr. I thought John Cena and Batista, this was some of the best work Batista had. And then closing out with the right main event, Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, which I believe they actually had a better match this year than they did the year before. WrestleMania 27, rest in peace. Great build-up. Thought it was going to be superior. Nope, not at all. I just didn't think it lived up to what it was supposed to be. Yeah, we had The Rock coming back. It was in Atlanta, but it just felt like the night was off, and Cole and Jerry Lawler had a lot to do with that. WrestleMania 28 is always special to me. It's my first WrestleMania I attended. But I'm going to be fair and call it a great one. I mean, speaking of a great one, The Rock makes his return in the ring versus John Cena. The story of that alone. You had The Undertaker versus versus Triple H. Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee. CM Punk and Jericho was sort of a stinker, but overall, the Yes Movement began. Yeah, Daniel Bryan lost in seconds, but that loss made him even better. So that gets a great one tag for me. WrestleMania 29. I'm going to say mid. And the reason is because it doesn't have the staying power that I thought. Yes, John Cena and The Rock ran it back with John Cena winning. But when you really think about it, and CM Punk and Undertaker was solid, but that was it. There was a lot of things missing from this WrestleMania. It just felt, it was New Jersey, but just a lot of stuff that was like, oh, come on, man. Brock Lesnar and Triple H felt like it could have been more, I don't know, just the women's match got cut. So, I'm just going to rank that as now. WrestleMania 30 is immortal. When you think about how that show started off, Austin, Rock, Hogan, last time we see the Ultimate Warrior got inducted that weekend. John Cena and Bray Wyatt, it was a solid story told there. The Undertaker streak ended. You cannot go in history without talking about that. And then Daniel Bryan opening the show with Triple H and then closing it, becoming the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The Yes Movement took over. So that WrestleMania is immortal. WrestleMania 31, I'm putting in the immortal category because as great as, I thought this was going to be a bad one, but, we had so many worlds come together. First, one match was, Daniel Bryan winning the multi-man ladder match after coming back after having to vacate the WWE Championship that he won a year ago, but winning the Intercontinental Championship. That was phenomenal. Randy Orton giving us a RKO out of nowhere on Seth Rollins, the pop-up RKO, right? Then Seth Rollins with the heist of the century, a call that will live on forever, just like this WrestleMania. And then, of course, we had Sting in the WWE. Finally! So, WrestleMania 31 is immortal, folks. WrestleMania 32 was barely legal. Just a sleeper of a WrestleMania. Yes, we got the Women's Championship back. But I remember this WrestleMania is like everybody's injured. And, The Rock would wrestle an impromptu match against Eric Rowan that he won in like 4 seconds, I believe, set a record. But, I mean, there's so much stuff. Like, yeah, John Max, Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar was a stinker. Yeah, we got Taker versus Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon did the jump off the cage. But Roman Reigns, this is the second of many where Roman Reigns is going to main event. But not a good WrestleMania at all. WrestleMania 33, my second WrestleMania, one of my favorites, but I got to say it was solid. Yes, The Undertaker's WrestleMania career was supposed to end. He lost to Roman Reigns in the main event, but it didn't. John Cena proposed to Nikki Bella. They were supposed to get married, but they didn't. So yeah, there's that. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton had one of them creepy matches. Now we finally get we finally get the Goldberg Brock Lesnar match that we have been waiting for years from WrestleMania 20. But I think they did a great job, and I believe it was like less than 10 minutes. So that was a good match. The Hardy Boys returning was the highlight of the night, along with Naomi becoming the first Black single superstar to win a championship at WrestleMania in her hometown of Orlando, but I gotta make it solid. WrestleMania 34, I'm going to say solid as well. Ooh, don't want to make that mid. This was, the Undertaker, John Cena, kind of like the Undertaker's redemption, where he chased them all night. We also had a kid become a tag team champion with Braun Strowman. So that part was, This is the first night the Usos got on the main card, though. A lot of people don't remember that. First night the Usos got on the main card. The main event was Brock Lesnar versus, you guessed it, Roman Reigns. This is where Brock retains the Universal Championship and throws the belt at Vince. So you had Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, and I gotta admit, as much as I wanted to like that match, it just was mid. But probably the match of the night, Kurt Angle. No, I'm tripping. Charlotte and Asuka. That was, incredible match. You could make an argument as one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. But Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey taking on Stephanie McMahon and Triple H was just one of the matches for the ages. So yeah. Now this was going immortal for two reasons, right? Wait, I just moved some. Okay, yeah, there we go. WrestleMania 35. It's Kofi Mania. Kofi Kingston becoming the first African-born WWE champion, right? Then you have Becky Lynch main eventing, winning both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship matches. The first time the women ever main evented a WrestleMania. So this right here is a immortal WrestleMania. I think you also had Seth Rollins beating Brock Lesnar in the opener. You had Roman Reigns returning after he had leukemia. So many great gems. The women's tag team championships on the line for the first time in history at this WrestleMania. Can't forget that. Now, where do you put WrestleMania? The pandemic WrestleMania, right? And I gotta go solid. Drew McIntyre was crowned, but we forgot. Sometimes I often forget that Drew defended the belt against the Big Show right after. That was just random. But we did get Bray Wyatt and John Cena, or The Fiend versus John Cena, in a very incredible cinematic match. We got The Undertaker's final match with AJ Styles in a Boneyard match. Very good cinematic, a GIF that lives on forever. And shout out to the WWE for even putting this together with everything that was going on. The first time they said WrestleMania was so big, we had to put it on 2 nights. That way, we had 2 nights to get our distractions away from everything. Now we go to WrestleMania 37. I'm putting this one as a great one. Main event. The first time 2 black women main evented WrestleMania. Sasha Banks defended the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship against Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair came out on top. We saw Sasha make Bianca that night. Incredible night, incredible match. And then, night 2, we saw Roman Reigns smash, stack, and pin Daniel Bryan and Edge. And then the next time, a few weeks later, we heard the new Tribal Chief music. But this was the solidification of the Tribal Chief. But we also got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at this WrestleMania. We got, this is the first night fans were back in attendance. So how incredible was that? Now, the Immortals, great one, solid, mid, barely legal. Rest in peace for the final 3 WrestleManias. And here they go. WrestleMania 38, the most stupendous WrestleMania of all time. I gotta make it a great one. And that is the night that Cody Rhodes returned to, actually, this is immortal. And Cody Rhodes returned to WWE, right? An emotional match for him, coming back against Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins had a mystery opponent. Everybody in Dallas knew it was going to be Cody Rhodes, but this is the first WrestleMania I got a chance to work, but it was incredible. Shout out to David Shoemaker for having an interview with Cody Rhodes right afterwards, and I got to produce that for TheRinger.com. But this night, these 2 nights, Stone Cold Steve Austin main event with Kevin Owens, Bianca Belair's redemption story against Becky Lynch, an incredible match, arguably match of the night. We also got Sasha Banks and Naomi winning the tag team champions, which would be Sasha Banks' first WrestleMania win. Where we got Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns in a winner-take-all match where Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar and solidified himself once again as the head of the table and made it his WWE. An incredible card. This WrestleMania lives immortal, just like our next one, WrestleMania 39, where Cody Rhodes made his attempt to finish the story, but it was Roman Reigns making him fall short. But also Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, always friends or enemies, winning the tag team championships the night before in the main event. We saw the making of Rhea Ripley when she defeated Charlotte Flair. Bianca Belair's WrestleMania streak continues with a solid win over Asuka. And Dominic Mysterio with an incredible entrance coming from the penitentiary to go against his dad, Rey Mysterio, who came out with Snoop Dogg, by the way. Speaking of Snoop Dogg, we saw Snoop Dogg just show how great he is when Shane McMahon came out to beat up The Miz and he leapfrogged, tore squad. Snoop said, don't worry about it. I got this. He knocked out The Miz. So just overall, this is my favorite WrestleMania, but it is immortal. And then WrestleMania 40, WrestleMania XL. Folks, there's no way that you can rank this lower than immortal. The most important WrestleMania main event win of all time, Cody Rhodes taking us into the Paul Levesque era, finishing the story in a Bloodline Rules match, a match where we saw everybody. We saw The Undertaker, we saw The Rock, we saw Solo Sikoa, we saw Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, the Shield version of Seth Rollins, and John Cena all come out to make sure he finished that story. But we also got the big three, Jade, Naomi, and Bianca, coming out with a Destiny's Child-like entrance. We got Jimmy versus Jay. I know a lot of people didn't like that match, but hey, it was a moment, right? We also, we got The Rock back in the ring. The Rock teaming with Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes the night before. So overall, this WrestleMania lives on immortal to set us up. Where will WrestleMania 34, or I should say WrestleMania 41 fall in? Only time will tell, folks. But that is my WrestleMania tier list. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Y'all let me know, how do you feel? How do you feel about my WrestleMania tier list? Do you agree? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But folks, that'll do it for this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Check out the Wrestling Realm Now podcast. Check out Championship Culture. Check out everything on this channel. Until the next time, folks, I am Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.